Do you ever feel sleepy or zone out during the day? Do you find it hard to wake up on Monday mornings? If so, you are familiar with the powerful need for sleep. However, what you may not realize is that sleep is as essential for your well-being as food and water. Sleep is food for the brain. The way you feel while you're awake depends in part on what happens while you're sleeping. During sleep, your body is working to support healthy brain function and prepares itself for the next day. It's forming new pathways to help you learn and remember information. Studies show that a good night's sleep improves learning. Whether you're learning math, how to play the piano, how to perfect your golf swing, or how to drive a car, sleep helps enhance your learning and problem-solving skills. Sleep also helps you pay attention, make decisions, and be creative. The damage from sleep deficiency can occur in an instant, such as a car crash, or it can harm you over time. For example, ongoing sleep deficiency can raise your risk for some chronic health problems. It can also affect how well you think, react, work, learn, and get along with others. Sleep plays an important role in your physical health. For example, sleep is involved in the healing and repair of your heart and blood vessels. Ongoing sleep deficiency is linked to an increased risk of heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and stroke. Without question, sleep plays a quintessential part in our lives. But what many of us ignore is how the process of falling asleep happens. In fact, it turns out the answer can be found in the chemistry of sleep. Our bodies release chemicals in a 24-hour cycle, nudging us to do certain activities at certain times. Each of these cycles is called a circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythms are regular changes in mental and physical characteristics that occur in a course of a day. Most circadian rhythms are controlled by the body's biological clock. This clock, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, is actually a pair of pinhead-sized brain structures that together contain about 2,000 neurons. In humans, circadian rhythms are best known for governing our sleep schedules. One of the most important chemicals involved in this process is melatonin, a hormone that makes us feel drowsy. The amount of melatonin in our bodies starts increasing in the evening and peaks in the middle of the night, letting us know it is time to sleep. It then decreases by morning, allowing us to wake up feeling refreshed. In order to maintain our 24-hour sleep schedule, our bodies translate information about time of day into melatonin production. This process starts in the eye's retina. When the retina is exposed to light, a signal is relayed from the retina to an area of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which plays a role in making us feel sleepy or wide awake. So once the suprachiasmatic nucleus receives this information, it sends signals to other parts of the brain that control hormones and body temperature. Then, signals travel from the brain down the spinal cord and back up to the pineal gland, a small pine cone-shaped organ in the brain where melatonin production takes place. During the day, such signals prevent the pineal gland from producing melatonin. But when it is dark outside, these signals are not activated, and the pineal gland is able to produce melatonin. In other words, exposure to light prevents melatonin release, which keeps us awake, and lack of exposure to light causes melatonin release, which tells us to go to sleep. These brain signals explain how our bodies know when to produce melatonin. But how is melatonin synthesized? Melatonin is actually derived from an amino acid called tryptophan, which is absorbed from the bloodstream to the pineal gland. An amino acid is an organic acid used to make proteins. The synthesis of melatonin from tryptophan can be divided into 3 steps. Tryptophan is converted to another amino acid called 5-hydroxytryptophan. This happens through the action of the enzyme called tryptophan hydroxylase. Important to note that an enzyme is a biological catalyst that speeds up the rate of a chemical reaction. The amino acid 5-hydroxytryptophan is then converted to a brain chemical called serotonin. Here, the enzyme used is the amino acid decarboxylase. Serotonin's conversion to melatonin involves two enzymes, SNAT and HIAMT. The activities of both enzymes arise soon after the onset of darkness. The amount of melatonin produced depends on the activity of the SNAT enzyme, which peaks when it is dark outside. Exposure to light induces signals that, as explained earlier, travel from the retina to the suprachiasmatic nucleus and then to the pineal gland. This results in the degradation of the SNAT enzyme and in turn keeps us awake. However, at night, SNAT is phosphorylated. Phosphorylation, which is simply the addition of a phosphate group to a protein or other organic molecule, prevents SNAT from being degraded and thus increases melatonin production. And as we know, an increase in melatonin production means that we feel sleepy. When it is morning time, SNAT is degraded again, so the amount of melatonin decreases and you feel ready to start the day. So why do teenagers above any age group find it so hard to wake up early? Contradictory to popular belief, it's not because they're simply whinier and lazy. As we have learned more about the chemistry of sleep in the past few decades, we have come to realize that it really is harder for teens to wake up early. In teens, melatonin is produced about 3 hours later in the 24-hour sleep cycle than in children or adults. This keeps them up late, and when they wake up early, the SNAT enzyme is still active, so they are still producing melatonin, which leaves them feeling sleepy in the morning. More than 60% of students are sleep deprived according to Statistics Canada. In order to improve a teenager's sleep quality, it is recommended that they minimize exposure to artificial light at night. This includes light from TV, computers, and phones. By signaling to your body that it is daytime, these light sources facilitate the degradation of the SNAT enzyme and in turn interfere with the production of melatonin. This means you won't feel drowsy, making it difficult to go to sleep at a reasonable time. More and more, scientists are observing a society where sleep deprivation is becoming the status quo. In order to keep ourselves awake, many individuals turn to coffee. But how does this drink keep us awake? Melatonin is not the only chemical that determines our sleep schedule. Adenosine also plays an important role. It slows down the activity of neurons. It gradually builds up in our body when we are awake. Our neurons, or nerve cells, are embedded with adenosine receptors. When adenosine binds to these receptors, a variety of proteins that inhibit neurons are released. This suppression of nerve cell activity is what causes the feeling of drowsiness. Now, caffeine works by changing the chemistry of the brain. Caffeine has a chemical structure similar to that of adenosine. Both chemicals have a double ring structure. Simply put, a double ring molecule is a molecule made up of a series of atoms bonded together to form two rings or circles. To a nerve cell, caffeine looks like adenosine, which allows caffeine to bind to the adenosine receptors. However, caffeine doesn't slow down the cell's activity as adenosine would, nor does it activate these receptors. Instead, the cells cannot sense adenosine anymore because the caffeine is taking up all the receptors adenosine normally binds to. By reducing the concentration of available adenosine receptors, caffeine slows the rate of reaction. Less bound adenosine means we feel less sleepy. So instead of slowing down like the cells normally would because of the adenosine level, the cells instead speed up. So, This is the science or mechanism behind sleep. We hope you enjoyed our presentation.